just to go back to the interdisciplinary research for one second, if it's something that brings together people from different fields, is it difficult to evaluate how good a project that has been done in an interdisciplinary way has been? Is it difficult to evaluate the applications for such projects and then to evaluate the outcomes?
Absolutely. You've put your finger, Aoibhinn, on a almost a sort of critical point. So a colleague, Veronica Strang, who runs our interdisciplinary Institute of Art Studies in Durham, and I ran a workshop a couple of years ago and have written a report on just this. And we realised that one of the big obstacles to interdisciplinary research is that there are funders who would like to know how to evaluate proposals. I mean, it's easy to know how you evaluate a chemistry proposal. You get a bunch of chemists around the table and you evaluate, or history, you get a bunch of historians. But how do you evaluate one of these interdisciplinary proposals? And we call it the problem of the elephant in the peer reviewer's room, because it's like the old Indian parable of the six blind people who are asked what is in front of them. What's in front of them is elephant, and one person thinks there are 4 tree trunks, and one person thinks there's a dangling rope, and one person thinks there are 2 enormous leaves like palm leaves. Of course, those are the trees, and one person says it's a trunk, but no one can see the whole elephant. And so for me, rule number one in evaluating interdisciplinary research is have these people achieved, or are they proposing with good rationality to achieve a totality, a result which is bigger than the sum of its parts? Has it really integrated? So, for example, going back to the Ordered Universe project as a lovely example, so there are all these disciplines. There's some physics, some engineers, some historians, some Latinists, some Arabists are sitting around a table where we've all got one thing that pulls us together, by the way, is the text. So in interdisciplinary research, I always find it's helpful to have ideally a materiality, but something we're all looking at. And we're all looking at it from our different directions, but that anchors our gaze in a single point. But then what emerges is, over time, a completely fresh, holistic, integrated view, in this case, of what Robert Grosseteste said about light, and we realise that he's thinking about light not just metaphysically but physically as well. We can mathematise the way he thinks it pushes the matter of the cosmos out into a giant sphere in a sort of medieval Big Bang theory. And this, it turns out, there are aha moments for everybody. So the humanities scholars, when listening to the scientists to have their take on the text, go, aha! Now, so I always thought that this was the case, but now that helps me realise that it's actually linked to this other writer, not the first writer I thought. And the scientists, when they're taught about some of the other documents he must have had on his desk that we had no knowledge of, go, aha, yes, I see the step forward he's taking as a sort of proto-scientifically minded person. And it's been lovely. And so the other thing that's happened in that project, is you get unanticipated spin-outs.
Yes.
So what we didn't expect in this one is that we would actually get new science out of it. But that's what's happened. Just you mentioned these aha moments. So our example of the aha moment from there is that for every treatise we've looked at, with the hope that the scientists might help the humanities scholars understand the treatise better, and that is true. But at some point, someone has said, did anyone do that experiment? Did anyone follow that idea through? Well, maybe not. Has anyone plotted all the colours of the rainbow that this medieval person is talking about in colour space to see how much of all colours one can ever get in a rainbow? No one ever had that thought before. Since Grosseteste, now we can do the calculation.
Right.
So there's a new paper in the Journal of the Optical Society of America that shows how rainbows generate a new sort of coordinate system for colours. Oh my goodness. Reference 1, our Grosseteste 1224. So that's quite cool. So the evaluatory question is, the top one is, are you creating a greater whole? And you need people who know what that looks like and feels like to help you answer that. It's not impossible to do, but you just have to think about it carefully. And then you can break that down into all sorts of questions about, are you helping each other learn? Are you giving each other respect? Are you listening, learning from each other? Is there such thing as academic hospitality? Do you have a trespassers will be prosecuted rule? Or do you have a trespassers we welcomed with open arms rule when people cross disciplines and make statements in other disciplines? By the way, you need the second, not the first. And so on. That gives you some examples. But this stuff is all out there now. And so but peer review has still to catch up.